Upstairs, downstairs, number 3, production number 1703, recording date 3574, take 1.
I'm sorry, Hudson, I forgot my key.
That's quite all right, miss.
Come on. Is Mrs. Bellamy in?
She's in the morning room, miss.
Hello, Hazel.
Hello.
Come in.
Thanks.
This is Dennis Kemp of the Royal... What is it?
The Royal Welsh Fusiliers.
Mrs. Bellamy, my sort of step-cousin by marriage. How do you do?
How do you do?
We've just been to lunch with Dennis's mother out at Richmond. And these are from her garden.
Oh,
They're called Merry Widows.
thank you. They're beautiful.
We drove back through Putney. It was lovely. Lots of people, all looking happy. Isn't it strange? Does it mean the war's about to finish?
If it is, all my efforts will be wasted.
Hazel's packing up hundreds of mufflers and things for the front.
Well, may I have one? I'm going to the front tomorrow.
Oh, no, these are for the ordinary soldiers, aren't they?
Yes.
Hazel thinks that officers can buy their own at Harrods.
Oh, Hudson, will you fetch a vase for these? I'll arrange them myself.
Very good, Holmes. And will you get me what you promised?
All right. Stay here and talk to Hazel.
You sit down.
Oh, you tell us how they've got women waiters at the Athenaeum these days.
Whatever next?
But Rose waits at tables here, Mrs. Bridges.
Where's Daisy?
Off at the baker's, Mr. Edson.
Then be so good as to put water on this bear's rose, take it up to the mistress in the morning room.
All right, my dear, and I finish this.
When you return, Rose, household duties must still occasionally take priority over the army's footwear. It is socks, I take it?
And balaclava helmets.
And comforters. I was reading this poster. It said that any woman who by working helps to release a man for fighting does National War Service.
Or taking brandies and sodas to old gentlemen in the Athenaeum Club. Doesn't sound to me like helping the war service.
If it's helping to release a man for fighting, Mrs. Bridges.
They ain't going to do much fighting in them socks, Ruby.
I've been in charge of men from my regiment who've come back from the front, wounded in Neuve-Chapelle, convalescing, almost ready to go back now. Well, you can imagine I felt rather a fraud.
Did they talk to you of their experiences?
Not much. I think they knew it was my turn next.
Thank you, Rose. Will you mind going?
No. No, it's better now I know for certain. And I'm lucky. I've met Georgina.
Lucky?
Oh, yes, it makes all the difference having someone in mind. I'm sure your husband would agree.
Yes.
Yes. Yes, it gives a reason to it all.
Have you known each other long?
No, only a very short while. And naturally I can't ask anything of her. But if I do return in one piece... Well, anyway, she's already scored a bullseye with my mother.
It's an awful likeness. But if you really want it...
Oh, yes, I do. Thank you.
Well, shall we have some tea? Well, thank you very much, Mr. Schonfield.
You don't know the trouble we have getting the flour, Daisy.
Good afternoon. Good afternoon.
It's Daisy, my dear, from Mrs. Bellamy's house.
You take good care of those loaves, Daisy. Oh, they're precious nowadays, like gold.
Don't let anyone steal them from you on the street.
With flour so scarce and no coal for my ovens, I can only bake 2 days in the week. How many loaves did you supply?
Oh, my dear, as a favour to an old customer, Mrs. Bridges.
Oh, I'll tell her. Here, these halfpenny buns have got smaller.
And dearer, penny now.
You're very lucky to have them, my dear.
Yes.
You can't get buns like that anywhere else in London.
Oh, and how do you manage them?
Special methods. The same way as I get you hot cross buns at Easter.
In fact, Mother, can I have my tea?
You do not come into this shop when we have customers.
Hello, Wilfred.
He wants to join up in the army at 10 years old, I ask you.
I hope he doesn't have to. I hope this war's over soon.
Will be, there's no doubt of it. Already we're pushing Fritz back. Eh, Wilfred?
Come along, Wilfred.
Loves playing soldiers. I give him some for his birthday.
It's my birthday next week, next Wednesday.
Is it? Then you must have a cake.
Oh, I haven't seen a birthday cake for ages.
You'll have one. Leave it to me.
Oh, thank you very much, Mr. Schonfield. You shouldn't trouble.
How's Edward getting on?
Oh, all right. I get nice cheerful letters.
From the front, eh?
No, Colford St. Mary.
His camp on Salisbury Plain.
Tell him to stay there.
I will. Bye.
Bye.
You better make our tea, Ruby. Oh, have my bread.
Yes, Mrs. Bridges, I'm lucky to get any. Mr. Schonfield let us have these as a special favour.
Special favour indeed, I don't think so. Considering we've been having bread from him ever since I can remember.
We want no special favours from Mr. Schoenfeld, thank you.
Why ever not, Mr. Hudson?
They're very nice people. Very good tradespeople, too.
Best bakers round here. I like him. He's always ever so nice and kind to me.
I've watched him since he was a young lad. When his father first come over here and opened up the shop.
Exactly, Mrs. Bridges. Since his father first came over here as a German refugee from the Franco-Prussian War.
I think I quite get your meaning, Mr. Hudson.
I do. I read a leaflet. Mr. Hudson thinks that Mr. Schonfield, being of German origin, is going to start poisoning the bread.
This is no laughing matter, I assure you, Daisy. Rose. As long ago as last August, all enemy aliens were obliged to register at their nearest police stations.
Enemy alien?
German people living and working over here, Mrs. Bridges. And although the government has since seen fit to intern thousands of them in special places, many more are still roaming free.
Why?
Because they are cunning, Ruby. They change their names. I read in the papers that a city firm called Siegbor Brothers changed their names to Curzon Brothers. And a man called Rossenheim announced in the Times that he was to be known in future as Rose.
But Alfred Schonfield hasn't changed his name. Why do you need one of them special places?
Because he's a nationalised Briton and as patriotic as you are, Owen.
That is not the point, Rose. Some of you may pronounce it Schonfield for convenience, but the correct way is Schoenfeld. The name and the spelling are German. And believe you me, if his father was still alive, he would certainly be interned already.
Better off dead then.
For his own protection as much as anything else.
Protection? Who from? From us or the Germans? I don't understand that, Mr. Hudson.
Yes, you'll have to explain that to us, Mr. Hudson.
I will gladly,
Excuse me,
Mrs. Bridges.
Hudson, but I've got work to do.
Well,
Spies? Yes, miss. There's been cases of signalmen being overpowered and trains being sent down the wrong lines and coming off the rails. And Germans have been caught on the East Coast signalling to German submarines. And bombs have been found in the trunks of German governesses.
Oh, no, that's too much, Daisy.
No, it isn't.
Here, see if these will fit.
Thank you, Hazel.
Daisy, who's been telling you about German spies?
Mr. Hudson, madam, he's read about it in the newspapers and he's told us all to be on our guard.
But I don't see what you could do about it, Daisy. Or what any of us could do.
I've read these stories too, and I think they're exaggerated. Put it all out of your mind, Daisy.
Yes, I will, madam. Mr. Hudson says the newspapers don't say enough. He says they're muzzled like dogs to stop them biting. Well, I thought the war was going on in France, but it's not. It's going on here right under our noses and we can't see it. Will that be everything, miss?
Oh, yes, thank you, Daisy.
And Mr. Hudson says, if you please, madam, to beware of tennis courts.
Tennis court?
Yes, madam, in German people's houses. 'Cause really, he says they're gun platforms.
Yes, well, thank you, Daisy.
Hudson working up patriotic fervour.
Is that what it is? Well, enjoy your evening, Georgina. That young lieutenant that came this afternoon, he seemed very charming.
Dennis? Yes, he's very nice. He's taking me to see La Traviata.
Are you going to see him off to the front tomorrow?
Oh, no, his train goes at 8. He told me not to miss my beauty sleep.
This Dardanelles business looks more and more like a major blunder on our part. If these latest reports are to be believed.
Are they?
Huh?
Are they to be believed? How much of the truth are the newspapers telling about anything these days?
Well, it's not always in our best interest we tell the literal truth. It could lead to alarm and confusion. That's why we have a press bureau.
To be selective as to what we may or may not be told.
Yes.
Then propaganda is more important than truth.
The right sort, properly handled. Well, of course it is. To keep up public morale. You must remember that people nowadays rely on their newspapers more than ever before. We must make the best use of them.
So fill them up with stories of German atrocity.
Oh, yes, they do go too far sometimes. But it's what people want to read. It stiffens their determination to defeat the enemy. I think it's justified.
Richard! People are being roused by these loathsome stories to a point of uncontrolled hysteria. We've got everybody looking for spies under the bed. It's ludicrous. You may clear in a coffee, thank you, Rose.
Government's denying rumours about spies every day.
Nobody believes them. Why should they? People know they're not being told the truth, so they believe what their imagination tells them. And soon they'll start to act stupidly through fear and ignorance.
I wonder. Rose, what do you think about all these spy stories?
I don't believe a word of them, sir.
Not even the ones Hudson's been telling you, Rose?
Hudson?
Well, sir, Mr. Hudson has always had a bee in his bonnet about spies. He thought Alfred was a spy. Alfred was our footman what went to Germany and...
Yes, I know about Alfred. Thank you, Rose. Rose may not believe them, but the others do.
Now, what do you mean?
I think you should know the state of morale in this house, Richard.
All right. What stories in particular has Hudson been spreading?
Horrible things. He reads them in the less reputable newspapers every day.
Well, then let's have a word with him.
Don't you think you should? He'd take it so much better from you.
No, Hazel, it's up to you. You're the mistress of the house. And as this particular issue involves the female servants, it's your job to speak to him. Well, let's get off to the house. Tell Hudson I'll be in for dinner. Goodbye, my dear.
Would you like a cup of tea, Mr. Hudson?
What? No, thank you.
Thank you, Daisy. Oh, you've all done magnificently.
Well, madam, anything we can do to help our boys. Ruby, is this sock or scarf?
It's not one of mine, Mrs. Bridges.
Oh, certainly isn't one of mine.
It was more of them old magazines.
Oh, thank you, Rose.
Right, now. Can you put some in for you, Mrs. Bridges?
Oh, thanks, Rose.
So you can have that. Oh, that's not for packing, madam. That's Mr. Hudson's personal.
Oh, I see.
Stop reading.
When you've all finished the packing, would you put the boxes in the front hall? They'll be collected this evening.
Very good, madam. Ruby's and Mr. Hudson coming down this cup of tea in here.
No, Mrs. Bridges, he doesn't want any. He seems in a funny mood.
Still upset about that Dumfries nurse, I suppose.
What Dumfries nurse?
The one who got savaged by Germans.
Yeah, that was never true, was it?
You only hear 100th part of the atrocities perpetrated in this war, Daisy.
My friend says that there's Belgian girls walking about London with their hands cut off. And there's this factory just outside Berlin where they're melting down dead bodies to make grease for guns.
Oh, be quiet, Ruby. Pick up that string and tie up your box.
Hudson,
Madam?
I know that you have been butler in this house a long time.
Madam?
And I am reluctant to criticize your conduct in the servants' hall, which is your own concern.
Yes, madam.
I know this war is upsetting you a great deal.
Indeed, madam, I think we're all upset by it.
Yes. Hudson, I want to be frank with you. I heard Daisy telling Miss Georgina stories of so-called German spying activities, which she heard from you. She was recounting them in a way that clearly alarmed her. Probably alarmed Miss Georgina, and certainly alarmed me.
They are alarming stories.
Not in that sense, Hudson. I was alarmed that you should be spreading these stories, which for the most part are not verified.
But, madam, the newspapers...
Yes, I know about the newspapers, Hudson. And certain types of magazine which seem to be circulating. Printing stories and pictures that some people want to see. For example, that Scottish nurse that was supposed to be tortured in Belgium.
You mean not human?
Yes. It was proved that her sister invented the story. Yes, Nurse Hume did volunteer for service, but she never in fact left Huddersfield.
That was later reported, but...
But you don't believe it. Hudson, don't you see how irresponsible talk can affect innocent lives? The Germans are human beings exactly the same as we are. If we cannot believe ourselves capable of such horrors, how can we believe it of them? The servants have been unsettled by these stories, Hudson. And I want that to stop. Do you understand me?
Yes, madam, but you will allow I can't alter my own feelings. And I feel strongly that this war is not just being fought on the battlefields, but right here among us.
Of all your alleged spy stories, Hudson, only one single spy has been caught and convicted. Karl-Heinz Lodi.
With respect, madam, there was also that barber on the Caledonian Road.
Yes, you're quite right. I had forgotten the barber in the Caledonian Road.
I will curb my tongue, madam, I'm sorry.
I appreciate there are gullible young minds.
Gullible, yes.
They ought nevertheless to realise the utter savagery and brutality of those pigs, the Huns, madam. They are inhuman monsters.
They are
madam.
human beings, Hudson. They are no more inclined to cruelty and inhumanity than we are. It's lies. So let us have no more stories of spies or atrocities in this house. Do you understand?
If those are your orders, madam.
Yes, Hudson.
Of all the deeds of infamy done against vessels, one stands out above all others, the sinking of the Canard liner Lusitania. This great ship, the pride of the Atlantic, was passing the old head of Kinsale on May the 7th, when she fell a victim to a German submarine. It was just after lunch. The great liner was steaming on a placid, sunlit sea. Mothers and nurses were playing with their children on the deck, for there were many children on board. Suddenly, without warning, 2 torpedoes struck, and the liner sank nose down in a very short time. Many hundreds of people were hurled into the sea. There were no ships near at hand. Parents held up their children in the water till both sank from utter exhaustion. One mother held her baby above her till rescue came, but the cold had killed the little one before it could be taken out of the sea. Rich and poor, millionaires and labourers bravely met their doom. Close on 1,200 souls perished. And Germany proclaimed herself by the act the enemy of the human race.
Monsters.
Hello, Rose. Some extra loaves for Mrs. Bridges. And a surprise for Daisy. A cake for her birthday.
Oh, it is kind of you, Mr. Schonfield. You come in and I'll see if I can find a candle for it.
What is it, Rose?
Afternoon, Mrs. Bridges. Mr. Hudson.
Afternoon, Mr. Johnfield.
Hello, Daisy. Many happy returns.
Thank you. Mr. Schonfield, you're wearing that badge because you're...
Because I'm what, Ruby?
Nothing.
Look what Mr. Schonfield bought for Daisy.
Oh,
Many happy returns of the day, Daisy.
Many happy returns for today.
Mr. Have a nice winter, Mr. Schonfield.
Thank you.
It's lovely. I really didn't expect it.
Oh, I always keep a promise.
Yo, come on. You're supposed to blow the candle out first to make a wish.
I know what I wish Eddie was
oh,
here.
don't say it. It won't come true.
I don't know what it will taste like.
Sawdust, probably.
Oh, ungrateful girl. Did Mrs. Johnfield bake it?
Yes, she did. And I can tell you, Daisy, she would make a tasty cake out of sawdust.
Well, I would have made one myself. Only Daisy did mention that you had something in mind.
Oh, delicious.
Isn't Mr. Hudson going to have some?
Probably not very hungry. Here, I haven't given Daisy a bit. Oh, let me try that. Come on, Daisy. I'm going to give you a bit with the Daisy on it. It's a big bit.
Yes, teeth are all right. Any serious illness? Operation?
No, I haven't been in hospital for years, sir. Oh, my knee. Now, I did damage my knee.
Really?
But that hasn't given me any trouble for a long time. And as for illness...
What's
you
it?
know- Well, the occasional cold, you know, but never anything to keep me away from my duties.
Varicose veins?
No, sir.
Good. Put your hand over your left eye and read that notice, will you?
Eh, which notice, sir?
The one over there in front of you, with the letters on.
EOSRV.
Yes. Now the other one.
EOSVN. No, M. Oh, I'm sorry, my eyes seem to be a wee bit tired today. I can read perfectly well normally.
You wear spectacles, do you?
Yes, sometimes.
Let me see them if you have them.
They're a wee bit too strong, these glasses. I don't really need them as strong as that. I think that's maybe why my eyes are a bit strained today.
How old did you say you were?
38, sir.
Well, I'm afraid we can't have you. Not with your eyesight. The corporal will give you an exemption card. Next one, please.
But if everything else is all right, sir, could I not be considered for an administrative job?
I'm sorry. There are other ways of serving your country, you know. Man of your resourcefulness, I'm sure you'll find something to do. On the bell.
The most extraordinary scenes at the house this afternoon. The stock exchange threw out all brokers of German birth, then marched onto Central Hall, Westminster, and demanded the internment of all Germans living in the country.
They can't do that. It's against the law. Were they arrested?
No. The police just stood by. Well, you can hardly blame them, I suppose. It is the mood of the country.
It's frightening. What did Mr. Asquith do?
Nothing. Nowhere to be seen. Instead, they were met by Harry Dalziel. He's a radical. He addressed the crowd and told them that he was convinced there were thousands of Germans living all over London ready to set fire to the city if the Zeppelins come. It wasn't the bakers and the waiters and the barbers that worried him. It was the people of German birth in high social and government positions. He'd have them all behind bars just to make sure.
You don't agree with that, do you?
Oh, no, of course not. The rest of them are loyal British subjects, of course they are. There are the dangerous ones. How do we find them?
Would everyone be so excited if there'd been no Lusitania?
Yes, that act of barbarism has rebounded on them, thank God. But I haven't yet told you the main news. The coalition is now a certainty. Lloyd George has got his way. They've sacked Churchill from the Admiralty and offered it to Arthur Balfour.
Yes, Rose?
Two gentlemen to see you.
The criminal has turned patriot. And I was only mentioning to Mr. Gillespie just now that... What's this?
Their shop was attacked.
High windows
And
smashed.
there was a haul of bread away and perambulators.
And when they'd done, they set a light to
They
it.
thought they were spies.
Who did?
People like us. English people.
We came here for refuge, Mr. Hudson. There was nowhere. My wife, Maria, and my son, Wilfred. You see...
Shall I take your coat, Mr. Hudson? And how did the patrol go?
Yes, what do you do, Mr. Hudson? Did you go up fire at all?
Tonight was Mr. Hudson's first night on duty as special constable.
We were shown the fire tower, yes, Ruby.
Then what did you do?
We were detailed to guard the power station at Wandsworth.
Oh, anything happened?
No, things were quite peaceful, as it turned out.
Well, thank goodness she wasn't anywhere near poor Mr. Schonfield's shop.
What were they expecting to happen at this power station, Mr. Hudson? Were they expecting it to be attacked by German spies?
Maria.
No, I want to know. Why the special constables were guarding peaceful power stations when they could have been out in the streets preventing ordinary British people from behaving like animals and savages.
She is upset, Mr. Hudson. There were special constables there. I saw them doing their best to control the crowd. But sometimes they are hit over the head by the regular police by mistake.
I think you will find, Mrs. Schoenfeld, that after these riots, which I must confess to knowing nothing about, we will spend more time patrolling the streets. And I don't obviously wish to defend what has happened, but you must realize this great wave of hostility is largely the result of the sinking by a submarine of the neutral American liner Lusitania.
Oh, yes, the Lusitania.
An act of gross barbarism.
You have clearly not been told what we have been told about the Lusitania.
Maria, don't.
That it was carrying women and children and Americans, yes. But concealing arms and Canadian troops below. You have not heard that?
Exaggerations, propaganda. Why do you talk to these people like that? They are our friends. They have taken us in when we needed help.
Arms? Canadian troops? Oh, we'd never do a thing like that, would we, Mr. Hudson? Not British.
No, Mrs. Bridges, we wouldn't. But it is what one would expect the enemy to say of us to justify the frightful deed.
Well, be that as it may, Mr. Hudson, where are they going to sleep? Young Wilfred's nearly dropping.
Well, he could have Eddie's room, couldn't he?
Oh, yes, I suppose he could. And then Mr. and Mrs. Schonfeld could have our room and we could
Now,
sleep down
just a
here.
minute, Rose. You're making rather too many assumptions. I will need to consult the master.
They must go to the police and report the damage to their property.
As I thought, sir.
Then what happens to them?
They'll be safe, that's the first thing, until all this dies down. They're naturalized British subjects, they'll remain free, unless it's considered safer for them to be interned.
Interned? Put behind barbed wire?
Oh, it's not as bad as the words suggest. I gather these camps are quite decently run, and they'll be out of harm's way. They could be the lucky ones. You must convince them of that, Hudson.
Yes, sir. Should I send them on their way at once?
No, Hudson. If they are shocked and hurt, they must stay the night. They can have my room if necessary.
Very well, Hudson. They may stay the night, sir. But first thing in the morning, they must go to the police.
Very good, sir.
Poor devils.
Yes. Doesn't it prove my point? That once you start twisting people's minds with propaganda, even the English can behave like savage beasts.
What happens to the boy?
I would assume he goes with you.
Or to the workhouse?
They wouldn't separate us, Maria.
No. Well, then, since you are so confident, let us not waste any time.
Maria, what are
The
you
master
doing?
has said you may spend the night here.
Thank you. Since we have to go anyway, why should we inconvenience you further? Come along with it.
Maria, don't be stupid.
Stupid? Oh, who are you calling stupid? It is you who are the stupid one. Your stupid English badge. Don't you see? You fool nobody. They don't want you. These kind people. You make them feel uncomfortable. Look at them all looking at you. And your son they don't trust. So, let them take their bread from English bakers. If they can find any.
Oh, I'll bet you're glad to see the back of them, Mr. Hudson. Who knows? They might have burned the house down during the know-it.